Well, not vitriol. I actually never swore at anyone in that. I said it won't turn you into a lustful cock monster. I never called anyone a lustful cock monster.
Right.
You may have to cut that part. When I got involved in the marriage equality debate in Minnesota, it was, excuse me, it was because I got asked to on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, this seems like a great idea. I don't think discrimination should be enshrined in the state's constitution. That seems like a somewhat negative idea. But for me, it was also the fact that the world that I want to live in is one where I am free to do what I want to do. And in order to have that, other people have to be able to live in that same world. Everyone has to have that same freedom, otherwise it doesn't work. Otherwise, I'm setting the precedent for my own oppression later. So a lot of people had issues with the language I used in the first letter, the one to Delegate Emmett C. Burns Jr. And my response to that was, yeah, I could have used less colorful language, but A, I didn't want to because I enjoy swearing, and B, if you're thrown off by bad words, then you're not looking at what the actual message is. You're not looking at what the actual content is. And when I wrote in the book, there's the censored version of the letter, and I put, kind of a foreword to that in that, okay, here's a censored version if that's what threw you off, but the point I'm trying to make is the fact that what Emmett C. Burns said, without swearing at all, was essentially the enslavement of another thinking being. He said, you cannot believe a certain way. You have to believe the way I believe. You cannot live your own life. It's like, well, wait a minute. To me, that seems a little bit more detrimental to society as opposed to using some colorful bathroom humor. So I grew up reading a ton of books, playing video games, and my ideal afternoon is sitting on the couch at home playing video games, because that's what I like doing. But my parents also wanted me to be active and outside so I could run around, and I turned out to be pretty good at athletics too. And so as I grew up, it was kind of this struggle between, okay, do I spend all my time reading and playing video games and doing nerd stuff versus do I go outside and be really good at sports? And I think that the idea that you have to spend so much time doing athletics in order to be, number one in your sport, that you don't have time for anything else is really kind of a fallacy that's been very much perpetuated by how corporate sports has become over the last 20 years. They want you to think of athletes as solely these people that spend every waking hour thinking about their job, and then they go to sleep and dream about their job. But that's not what we do. We're human beings. You're entirely capable of being very, very good at something and also spending 4 to 5 hours a day doing that thing, and then having time to live your life and do other things. And the problem is that can lead to controversy, because if you go do other things and maybe you say something that people higher up don't like because they're worried that someone else might not like it, and then revenue might go down or it might bring attention, well, then they're going to say, no, just be an athlete, just be a Kobe Bryant, just be a Peyton Manning, where you're focusing 12, 14 hours a day on just this job. And I don't believe that, because I was very, very good. I also, I spent the time to become very, very good. I put in 4 to 5 hours a day to be very, very good. But at the same time, that also leaves me time to do other things. And I also like to be very, very good at other things. So it's really not allowing yourself to be limited by this idea that you can only be this one thing. The main things I like to read are science fiction and fantasy. I'm a huge science fiction fantasy fan. Pretty much anything in the last 50, 60 years I've probably read. Ian Banks, one of my favorite authors, was very, very sad to see that he passed away, because I love the culture novels. They're amazing. Terry Pratchett, another amazing author. He's probably one of the best satirists I've ever seen in terms of just identifying, okay, here's something we do that's absolutely ridiculous, but you don't realize it's ridiculous until you view it through this lens of, yeah, that is what we do. Why do we do that? And I love reading all sorts of different stuff. I love reading science fiction and fantasy because it can be entertaining, but also at its core, very good science fiction and fantasy is based on things that we have done as human beings. It's based on our history. It's based on, okay, what if things had gone a little bit differently back then, and things had turned out a slightly different way? And a lot of people are fans of Game of Thrones right now. Well, the Game of Thrones is essentially the War of the Roses. Here's history. This is political intrigue that has happened in our past, and we can learn from this if we want to. Or we can just be entertained by lasers and dragons and swords. It's up to us.